as you can see, it's another rainy day in San Diego, and so I'm going to take this time to answer a couple questions that I've got through Instagram from some of the subscribers here. Alright, so Jennifer hit me up through Instagram and had a question, and she said that she'd like a breakdown of aperture, ISO, and shutter speed, but she would like to know how to use it while you're in manual mode. All right, let's talk about manual mode and primarily the downsides of it. Okay, everyone thinks that they have to shoot in manual mode to be a professional photographer, and I'm going to tell you right now that's false. In fact, if you're wanting to shoot in manual mode, you must like to torture yourself, I guess. Okay, or you want to be a chemist, because when it comes to manual mode, you're having to do all the guesswork. My favorite mode, or my favorite priority of shooting, is aperture priority, and the main reason is you get to choose your ISO, you get to choose your f-stop or your aperture. The camera selects the shutter speed for you, eliminating one part of the guesswork or the science of photography. So don't let people make you think that if you aren't shooting in manual mode that you're not a professional or you're not good at taking photos, because that's pretty much false. The thing about it is think smarter, not harder. Now, ISO or ISO. Okay, it stands for international, you know what? It doesn't matter what it stands for. What it does is it controls how sensitive your camera is to the light in the surrounding area. So the lower the ISO, the better for a brighter day. If you're going to be shooting with an ISO of 100 to 200, that's going to be good for outdoor shoots. Now, if you're shooting on the indoors, you're going to want an ISO at 400 or above, and 400 is also good for an overcast or a cloudy day. Now, once you get to an ISO of 800 or more from there, what you're gonna see is a lot of noise that is being introduced into your photos. And by noise, I mean a lot of fuzziness in the photo. And it's gonna be really difficult to edit that out in post. Aperture, just like the pupils in your eyes, it controls how much light enters in through the camera lens and hits your sensor. If you're going for a wide aperture, that's going to be a lower number. And for someone with a linear brain, that doesn't make much sense. That if you want a wider aperture, you're going to choose a 2.8 and not a 22. I know, when I first started, it blew my mind. And actually, a lot of my photos were blown out too. So the thing about a wide aperture, say a 2.8 f-stop, what that is going to do is it's going to make the aperture or the pupil in your camera a lot wider, and that's going to allow for a lot more light to come in. Now, what you want to do is, if you're going to use a wide aperture like that, you're going to want to use a higher shutter speed so it controls how much light is actually hitting your sensor. The other thing about a wide aperture is your subject is going to be very sharp, but your background is going to be very blurred out. And in portraits, that's a pretty good tool. So narrow aperture is going to be up on the higher range of numbers, or the higher range of f-stops. A lot of cameras, they top out at f-stop 22. Okay, so what that is going to do is it's going to allow for everything in the frame to have sharpness. The subject, the foreground, and the background, you're going to be able to see everything. But because there's less light coming in through the lens, you're going to have to use a slower shutter speed to allow for more light to come through that aperture. And now to shutter speed. We've kind of touched on it talking about aperture and ISO, but shutter speed is what controls how much light or how fast the light is going to be entering your camera and exposing your photo. So the standard range, like the tipping point in shutter speed, is 1/60th of a second. At 1/60th of a second, you're gonna get some motion blur. And if you go anything lower than 1/60th of a second, there's gonna be a lot of motion blur. Now, above 1/60th of a second, that's gonna be able to stop your image within the photo. So say you're shooting a hummingbird. What you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna need to ramp up your shutter speed, because their wings flap so fast that even at 1/125th of a second, you're still gonna get motion blur. So if you wanna stop their wings in motion, you're gonna have to go up to about 1/2000th of a second. Okay, so to recap, ISO is gonna control how much sensitivity your camera has to light. Aperture, or f-stop, that's gonna control how much light is gonna be entering through the pupil of your lens. And shutter speed is going to be controlling how fast your camera blinks and how much light also gets through your lens. Alright guys, so hopefully this video helped you out, clear up some confusion or questions that you had. If it did, give me a thumbs up. If you think a friend of yours could benefit from this video, share it with them. And to see more of my videos, hit the subscribe button. I'm not always going to have little tutorials like this. If you do want something like this, hit me a little comment in the comment box below. Or if you want to see something else, leave that in the comment box below. But number one thing, go hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you next time.